Listen up, get ready, I'm not gonna take no more. There's a revolution, a revelation going on in my soul. Buckle up, get ready, we're not gonna sit back. Hey, all you citizens of the world. Welcome back to Live from the Heartland for the week of November 14th. And I'm really happy now to bring on my occasional co-host, the one and only Euan Hague, a dean over at DePaul University. And he's going to talk today with Christina Rivers of the Institute for Restorative Educational Engagement. It's a program at DePaul, and it deals with prisons and education. And we're looking forward to what Christina has to say. Take it away, Euan.
Thanks, Mike. You always promote me. I'm associate dean, not dean. But anyway, I'd like to introduce my colleague, Chris Rivers, who's in our political science department. And Chris has done a lot of work with in prisons in Stateville and Cook County Department and in Cook County. And so one of the things that, Chris, you've been working on is this Institute for Restorative Educational Engagement. So maybe you could tell us a little bit about what this is and why this is important and how you got involved in doing this.
Sure. Thank you. First, thank you so much, Michael and Euan, for having me on the show. I really appreciate this. IRE is an outgrowth of DePaul's Inside Out Prison Exchange Program. In around 2012, DePaul started offering courses called Inside Out courses, where we would bring traditional outside students inside carceral spaces to take courses alongside incarcerated students, usually about 12 apiece. That program started at Stateville Correctional Center out near Joliet, again in 2012. I started teaching in it in 2016. I taught a course there on law, politics, and mass incarceration. They had wanted somebody who could teach a survey course like that. And I closed out the course on readings that had to do with felony disenfranchisement laws, with practices called prison-based gerrymanders, which is the practice of counting incarcerated people in districts as constituents, even though they can't vote while they're incarcerated. And then we later picked up the topic of lack of voter access for eligible voters in jail awaiting trial. And so understandably, a lot of the inside students and outside really ran with that issue. And so we created a think tank, which basically was an extension of the course that allowed us to go in and continue to talk about these issues. And over time, the students revised final projects that they wrote about voter access, voter education for people who are or were incarcerated. And they wrote a bill, and we collaborated with folks from Chicago Votes and Chicago Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights. And the Reentering Citizen Civics Education Act, which was written at Stateville, was passed in 2019. It was the first law in the nation that mandates voter education and voter awareness to folks as they're exiting the Department of Corrections. So it's a statewide law. There was a companion bill that was passed that also mandated such civics workshops at Cook County Jail. That companion bill also meant that designated Cook County Jail is the first jail in the U.S. that becomes an electoral precinct. There's a long story behind that as well. So I continued to work with the think tank for several years. And in 2020, I did a presidential fellowship and came up with this idea of creating an institute that would allow DePaul to expand our prison education programming. There are many faculty that we've spoken with who are interested in teaching in prison or jail, but are not interested in that model of taking outside students in, or maybe can't commit a whole quarter, or have really specific ideas that they want to do that right now our structure doesn't support. So IRE is intended in part to provide other instructional options for instructors who want to do this work, and also to provide options for incarcerated students who have earned advanced degrees to engage in teaching on the inside or co-teaching on the outside with DePaul faculty. So that's one aspect of it. Another aspect of the Institute is to just ramp up the work that we're doing in training the incarcerated peer educators. They're the ones that deliver these workshops in the Department of Corrections. So we've been involved in those training sessions, particularly Alex Boutros, who unfortunately couldn't be here, who is now IRE's graduate assistant, but worked with Chicago Votes for many years. She's been coordinating the peer training sessions for those who are going to deliver those workshops who are delivering those workshops in the Department of Corrections. Recently, Alex and I have resumed civics and voter awareness workshops at the jail. We got back fully into this in just earlier this quarter, and we're building up a cadre of faculty, staff, alumni who go into the jail. Right now, we're going in twice a week, and they're taking us into the living units, and we talk to the people there about their, whether they know that they're eligible to vote. Most do, because Chicago Votes comes in and registers voters, and many have already voted in there. And we just go in there to talk to them about the importance of voting, emphasizing the importance of local elections, and just going over the sort of nuts and bolts of voting in basic governmental offices. So I think that covers everything with IRE in a nutshell. The third piece is to create a support services office for system impacted people. But I'm also learning how to fundraise, not well, but that is in the future.
That's a really great description. And of course, the current incarcerated population is disproportionately non-white, as we know historically, the disproportionate impact on marginalized communities. So bringing civic education to that population is clearly very important.
Yes, roughly 55% of people in the Illinois Department of Corrections are African American. And of course, statewide, that population is about 15%. And that's a profound disproportionality. It's by far not even the worst disproportionality in the nation, but it's profound. And by most accounts, the vast majority of people incarcerated in our state prison system are from the same several neighborhoods in Chicago. So there's also real Chicago impact here as well.
Mm-hmm. And it must have been to actually work on a system that ends up in creating new state legislation. I mean, as a political scientist, not only probably is that some career goal, but the importance and impact of that legislation on voting rights is also significant, especially in a climate where nationally people are trying to take voting rights away. Right.
Well, what that whole process did is it really blew the stereotypes out of the water that people who are incarcerated are all politically checked out. They're not. Many are very politically engaged. They're watching the news. They're CNN and MSNBC junkies the same way that we are. And this is not just in Illinois. There's a couple of very good nationwide surveys put out by the Marshall Project that demonstrate the same political interests and a wider range, actually, of political preferences on the inside than one would suspect. And so it's really deconstructing a lot of the stereotypes that we have about this population that's just sort of asleep and not paying attention. And that, to me, is really, really thrilling. It's a great way to be proven wrong, in my discipline, because we've just been getting it wrong. And what was also very exciting was watching legislation be written and participating in that inside a correctional center. And I'm learning now that there are other states that have, Colorado and Massachusetts have sort of legislative teams and committees of people, incarcerated people, who serve as kind of consultants to their state legislators. And so I'm thrilled to be meeting soon with someone from the Massachusetts Department of Corrections to talk about their legislative team that they have in the Massachusetts department there. So there's more of this going on than we recognize. And they often say that those who are closest to the problem typically have the best perspectives on how to solve certain problems and social problems. And so I think this really is the case with respect to political preferences and serious political engagement on the part of system impacted people who are currently serving out their sentence.
Mm-hmm. The other thing you mentioned about the Institute for Restorative and Educational Engagement at DePaul University is we have traditional 18 to 22-year-old students going into the prisons as part of the coursework. We have a couple of minutes left. What are some of the reactions of the students?
In the prison, the average age of the inside students is about 40. So there was an interesting generation gap. It wasn't in a bad way, but students often commented that they enjoyed being in a classroom with people who were significantly older than them. At the jail, that's not so much the difference. It's just such a wide range of perspectives on both sides. And it really helps break down stereotypes that our students would have about how much people inside know, or will they be able to keep up with class? Boy, do they. And it also breaks down stereotypes that some of the inside students have mentioned about feeling like they might be judged by their outside students, or that they might not be able to keep up. So it really breaks down those types of barriers very effectively in a way that showcases the talents amongst both groups.
Mm-hmm.
It's an amazing thing to watch, whether it's in a jail setting or in a prison setting.
Mm-hmm. So if there was a takeaway for the future of the project, what's the next step?
Well, we need money. We need some more staff. And we're really looking forward to providing the student services component, something that will be modeled after what's happening in California. But we're really excited about getting further involved in legislation and trying to reconfigure ourselves also as we adjust to being relocated to a prison that's 3 hours away. Stateville closed about a year ago. And so we've been reassigned to a place that's 3 hours away. So right now we're just trying to deal with the logistics, what that would look like for some of our instruction.
Right. Well, that's great. Chris, thanks for telling us about the Institute for Restorative and Educational Engagement. Back to you, Mike.
Thank you for having me.
I want to thank both of you, Euan Hague and Christina Rivers of the Institute for Restorative Educational Engagement at DePaul.